Blessed be. I am Elder Eliza with the Church of Light. Make sure that you like this video and follow for more content, because I think this one might be another superpower video. Covenant 12 in our church is that we must do what we can to protect the most vulnerable in our community. Now, this kind of goes along with other covenants that we have, but this is more of an all-encompassing. So, we start with, again, my superpower, vaccines. Because some members of our church have weakened immune systems, it is our responsibility to make sure that they are protected. We wear masks when we're around the most vulnerable. We make sure that we have our vaccines up to date. And I'm not just talking about the latest pandemic. I'm talking about measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, our flu shots, pneumonia shots, anything that we could potentially transmit to somebody who has a weakened immune system, or that getting sick could be dangerous for, or in general the health of our congregation. Yes, we do take steps to protect each other. Now, if somebody isn't in a vulnerable state and everybody's up to date on their shots, we don't usually wear these. And on here, I wear it simply because what's important is my message, not my face. I just figured it would be better to see my pretty face than just to show you a picture of one of my drawings. And by the way, before anybody gets their panties in a twist, that was a joke. We do what can be done, what we can do to protect the most vulnerable. Now, among those are also children. The children in our congregation are taught things like the proper words for their body parts. And I'm not talking about their arms and their legs. Because most parents know to teach their children what their arm is, what their leg is, in case something hurts. But I'm talking about parts of the body that most parents feel uncomfortable talking about. Anything covered up by a bathing suit, basically. This way, in case, God forbid, if something happens to that child, they have the words to be able to get help. If a young girl calls her vagina a cookie, and the teacher, that child's teacher, doesn't know that that's the word for her vagina, if that child comes to the teacher and says, "My uncle likes to lick my cookie," the teacher does not realize that the child is trying to tell them that they are being abused. So we use the scientific, correct terminology, close, the acceptable terminology, because you don't have to go into detail with every part of a woman's body, because there are a lot of different names and a lot of different parts. But we go with the generally accepted term. Same thing with boys. Little boys need to know the names of their body parts in case somebody if something gets hurt, which is a big one, but also if somebody tries to hurt them. We also teach young children about consent. That way, if somebody breaks their consent, okay, if you don't know about consent, you can't set boundaries. And if somebody violates those boundaries, how does a child know if they don't know that they have a right to say no? And when those boundaries are violated, then they know to go and tell a different adult. And along the same lines of that, we also make sure that we have an open door policy in our church, that if somebody even feels like somebody is being inappropriate with them, and I'm not even talking about sexual abuse, which, by the way, is very common in many churches, which we absolutely will do everything that we can to keep that from happening in ours. We keep an open door policy just in case somebody feels like something inappropriate happened. Doesn't mean it did, but they may feel like it did. In which case, then we go and we talk to both parties, taking very much into consideration what the offended party has said. If anything illegal has happened, you can rest assured I personally will be the one to call the cops. Because stuff like that is not welcome in our church. And we will not hide it if it does happen. We will not cover it up. It is our job to protect the most vulnerable. Whether we're talking about masks and vaccines, or teaching children the proper words, or just listening to somebody who feels like they may have been victimized. We will do everything we can. And we believe that it is every church's responsibility to protect the most vulnerable among us. And I'm not talking about just women or just children. Men can also be victims. And if they come to us and say that somebody in the congregation or somebody in leadership has been inappropriate with them, their claim, their story will be considered on equal ground as any woman or any child. So, Covenant 12 is protect the most vulnerable among us. Make sure that you like this video. Leave a comment below. Follow for more. I'm Elder Eliza with the Church of Light. Blessed be.